So today we are going to talk about, going through that pain and how you can grow from that pain instead of letting it put you down. And I am going to use my experience as a survivor of the Rwandan Genocide from the age of 2 to illustrate some ways that I have used it to overcome adversity and try to be a person that adds value to people's lives through that pain. Okay, so pretty much how to turn pain into purpose. Okay, so I'm going to start this with just a little bit of history, or talking about where Rwanda is. Like I said, some folks have never heard of Rwanda. And so this is just a map showing where Rwanda is. It's very, very small. I don't even know if you can see it from here, but it's right under Uganda. It's in like a dark purple, right next to the Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is green.
Circle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the little circle there, and right below it is Burundi. So before the colonization, actually, Rwanda and Burundi used to be the same country, and it used to be called Rwanda-Urundi. And so even people from my country, from Rwanda, can easily communicate with people from Burundi, even though they're two different languages, but we understand each other. And we have the same culture and things like that. So a lot of people ask me when I tell them I'm from Rwanda, they're like, oh, are you Hutu or are you Tutsi? Because everybody thinks about the genocide. It's like, come on, beautiful things come out of that country. It's not just like the genocide. Because the thing is, when you hear Rwanda, the first thing that comes to your mind, well, a lot of people, the woke people, it's the genocide. Some people don't even know there was ever a genocide. Some people don't even know there is a Rwanda. So, so when they ask me, are you Hutu or Tutsi, I'm always like, oh, okay, so this guy is educated. Okay, that's good. It's a weird question, but it's okay. Or they ask me, are you Hutu or Tutu? I'm like, I don't know what Tutu is. So you just never know what to expect. But then I usually go back in the history. Like in Rwanda, there are 3 ethnic groups. So we have the Hutus, the Tutsis, and the Twas, right? And the Hutus are the majority. Now, the genocide was really between the Hutus and the Tutsis. And they have done this many times, like over the past years. The Hutu takes power, and then they're not treating the Tutsis right, so the Tutsis revolt, and then they come and they take the power. They don't treat the Hutus right. It's just a big mess. Who am I? What am I? I'm actually mixed. I'm Hutu and Tutsi, right? And the majority of the country is really mixed because they intermarry. We all eat the same food. We're pretty much all Christians, go to the same schools. So from someone from the outside, if they were looking at us, a lot of the time they can't even tell the difference. They can't tell who's who. But there are some physical characteristics, right? So the Hutus are known, and this is in general, it doesn't apply in every case, but the Hutus are known to be a little stockier and darker. And the Tutsis are known to be taller, kind of like he looks closer to a Tutsi than he would to a Hutu, because he's tall and slim and has a longer nose, the European-looking nose, right? But there are some Hutus that look exactly like Tutsis. So during the genocide, people were being killed just because they have a long nose, and you're not even a Tutsi, right? So really, if you think about it, no one was safe, especially folks like me who are mixed. We weren't really safe. But at the age of 8, I didn't really know what was going on because I was not raised, my parents did not raise me to think in terms of ethnic terms, like you're a Hutu, you're a Tutsi, that just was not a conversation that we had. So now I'm waking up and I see people just like butchering each other, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? So we'll get to that later. We'll get to more of that later. So this is another slide I like to show folks. Like, they ask me, oh, do you guys have houses in Africa? Do you have like elephants for pets? Or do you have lions just roaming around? So I like to show this and say, listen, we don't have elephants just walking around and pets. Like, we don't have a petting zoo in everyone's house. We actually have like, this is pictures of places back home in Africa. And so people ask me, what do you guys eat? Do you guys eat pig feet all day? Do you guys eat chicken legs all day? Yeah, and we eat vegetables, just like everything here people eat. I tell them we eat the same food, okay? Because a lot of the times when people think Africa, they think it's just this foreign land where people are wearing cow skin and all those things. People are hunting every day and eating like lion's head and things like that. I've seen it all, I've heard it all. So I always put something like this to show them, like, look, we are all human race and we all eat the same food. And a big part of my culture is dance and music. Huge, huge. We are into dance and music. Those are just some of the photos of our traditional dancing. When my family lived in Kenya as refugees, myself and my younger sister, we actually were part of this international dancing group composed of just refugee kids. And we used to travel all over, and we used to have tourists come to watch us dance. And we actually have a video on YouTube, but you won't recognize me. I was like anorexic, like dying, literally dying. You couldn't tell this is me. And so we joined that group, and we would dance for people, and they would give us money to help us feed our families. So we would, like, the dance teacher would buy big bags of rice and beans and things like that. We would take it to our families. So that's how my family and I were able to survive. Mind you, I'm one of 8 children. So it was a lot of mouths to feed. So that was really helpful. My dad used to say, yep, go dance, go dance. I know you're gonna bring some beans at home. So yeah, I have a video I'm gonna show now. I think I'm doing it right. Oh yeah, so I have a video here just to show you our traditional dance. A lot of folks, again, when I talk about African dance or when I talk about Rwandan dance, they're thinking, oh, it's like the booty shaking and we're wearing like horns and all that stuff. I've heard it all. So I like to show what kind of dance we do in my country. So here's the video.
Gihugu tugarutse tukuvuga imyato ababyeyi baguha impundu impundu Rwanda isoko y'umunyarwanda n'umuco nyarwanda nyina wabeza.
Thank you. Yeah, so I like showing this part of Rwanda before I start going into the genocide, because we are more than just the genocide, the killing, and things like that. Like the video you just saw, those were Hutus and Tutsis dancing together, same music and things like that. So I want people to know that we are more than tragedy. We love each other. We have a rich culture, and the genocide, that's just something that the elite were involved in, and unfortunately it trickled down to just the common person, and killed 1 million people in a period of 3 months. So just imagine waking up and in 3 months, almost every single person you know is dead. Like 1 million people in 3 months. That is a lot of people. As I mentioned, I was 8 years old during that time in 1994, and it was actually in April 1994. So this event is actually timely because this is the anniversary. This month is the anniversary of the genocide. And I remember being so mad because my birthday is on April 13th. And I was like, man, I'm going to be a refugee forever from now on. And it was like the month I was supposed to be turning 8, right? But as kids, we didn't know what was going on. We just wanted to be like all other kids and just play around, eat, laugh, sleep. We did not ask for this to happen. This is a group of refugees from my country, around my age when the genocide was taking place. These kids are in a refugee camp. I remember when we left my home, it was in the middle of the night, and there was a lot of noise outside, and I didn't know what was going on. But then before we stepped outside, I could hear people say, kill him, kill him, kill him. And I'm like, who's killing who? Like, I didn't know what was going on. My parents knew, but they didn't want to tell us so that we weren't scared. But it was just kill them, and then people screaming, and my parents told us, don't go out to see what's going on. But eventually we had to leave because the conflict had gotten in our area. And walking outside our compound, our houses were, like my house was a big house in a big compound, and you couldn't see outside unless you either climbed a ladder or you went through the gate. So when we were going through the gate, I could not believe my sight. My neighbors who lived right across from us, they had all been killed. Their heads had been chopped off, and I could see their body parts. Like I could see a head there and a body there, and as an 8-year-old, I was like, I didn't know what to think. You're in that period where you're in shock, but you also have to run because you have to get out of that place. But your mind is still trying to process what is going on. And from there, it was just dead body after dead body, and we are all running down the road, trying to get from Rwanda to Congo. And people were holding, whatever belongings that they could find. A lot of people had mats that they're kind of like a carpet, but they're made out of straw, like dry straw, and they would have them on their heads, and we were just running for our lives, and bullets were shooting through the crowds, and people were falling down as we are running. So you ran, not looking back and not knowing if a bullet was going to catch you. You just kept on moving, and people were just falling like flies. And this whole time, it's so chaotic. Bombs exploding everywhere. Luckily, my whole family survived, like all my siblings and my mother and my father. We survived the whole ordeal. But we are one of the few luckiest families that went through that war and still were able to survive. So we eventually crossed over from Rwanda to Congo, and this is in Congo, in the refugee camps. There were so many dead bodies that they didn't know what to do with them, so they'll just dig up and make like makeshift graves and just throw them in there. You can only imagine what that little boy is thinking, looking at those bodies. And maybe that's their family that's in there, and he's never going to see them again. And that's the kind of hunger that we had in the refugee camp. Like when I tell you I was malnourished, that was me. And we were just all confused. And the sad thing is, the whole time we were in that place, I kept thinking we're gonna eventually go back home. This is a huge nightmare, and everything will go back to normal. I'm gonna go back and be the little princess my parents always told me I was, and things will go back to normal. But since 1994, I've never gone back to Rwanda. I remember, I don't know if you know about this, but President Clinton later on came to apologize for not doing anything. And he said that if he would have sent in troops, about 30,000 lives would have been saved. But that apology came way, way too late. So that was the scene. And if you remember in Hotel Rwanda, they had a similar scene in there. And every time I see these photos or I see the scene in Hotel Rwanda, it takes me back. Yeah, sometimes I look really closely and I'm like, okay, let me see if I can find myself in there. I feel like I'm right there. This is a picture of a refugee camp. I always like to put this on here because sometimes people don't understand what I mean by a refugee camp. People here go camping all the time, and sometimes they think that's what I'm talking about, like in a camp. Like, no, we're not talking about you going camping with like s'mores and a fire. No, this is a refugee camp, and our families would lay in a, kind of make like a makeshift structure there, and like that family cooking at the top, that's where they would station, so that's their home. And there are people still living like that from 1994. They're still in a place like that right now because they haven't been able to get out. They actually used to take the bodies and throw them in the lake. So there is a Lake Kivu in Congo, and that's the lake we use to fetch water, to cook from, drink, wash clothes, bathe. That was our only source of water, right? But then the bodies were so many that they didn't have a place to put them. So they would take the bodies and throw them in the water at the same time, right? But you're not gonna starve. You're not gonna go hungry. So you have to do what you gotta do. So we used to use that water, and that got so many people sick. And on top of the almost 1 million people that had been killed, we had diseases like cholera and typhoid and malaria killing people everywhere because we were using that water. I remember one day my mom had told me to go and fetch some water from the river, and she had also given me a shirt to go and wash. So she had bought me a shirt, and before we wear anything, we had to wash it. But mind you, we are washing it in that river. So, but anyway, so I went to the river, and I put the shirt down so I can get some water, to fetch some water. But then, as I was doing that, a big wave came and took the shirt, and the shirt disappeared in the water. And I'm like, oh crap. I'm gonna get a whooping when I get home. Like, I gotta get this shirt. But I couldn't swim, right? I still can't swim. So I try to figure out a way to go and get the shirt. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm gonna walk in the water, and if I get to a place where it's deep, I'm gonna hold on to something and lay on it, right? So I see a log in the water, and so I go for that log. I'm like, I'm gonna get close and then lay on the log and move my arms, and once I'm like this close to the shirt, I'm gonna jump and grab it and then get back, right? I wasn't trying to get a whooping, so I went and I got on the log, and as soon as I started to make a leap to grab the shirt, the log turned. Yeah, it was a dead body. And so, yeah, I was like, oh crap, this is not happening. And like I said, I couldn't swim, but I remember looking back and looking at the shore and looking at where I was. And I turned around and swam so fast. Like, in my whole 33 years of life, I had like 3 seconds where I swam faster than Mike Phelps. Like, I swam for my life, and I got there, and as soon as I got there, I was like, whoa, like, did that just happen? And then my swimming skills just disappeared. Like, I still can swim now. But during that fight and flight moment, I was able to swim and get there, but I was traumatized. Up to now, getting in water is like huge for me. I have to like talk to myself and say, you know what, this is not back home. There are no dead bodies in there. It was just a traumatizing experience for me. And these are things that a lot of kids my age face. I mean, they went through so much traumatic events that a lot of them have really not been able to recover. Mental health back home is like, it's taboo, unfortunately, and it wasn't there for them. And even now, for those that feel like they could use it, they just don't go to get the help because they're afraid of how the society is going to look at them, which is something, a narrative that we just need to change, because a lot of people are going through a lot of traumatic events. Even now, when you see, you know, things with like immigration and other wars going on in the country, and that kind of brings back memories, and then they're so, they have all this anxiety and they're not able to go to work and things like that, but still they're not able to go and say, hey, I need help, because they're afraid of what people in the community will think of them. But so from Congo, we moved to Kenya, and we lived in refugee ghettos in Kenya, which I'll show you a picture of. But before I do that, I am going to slowly transition from coming from Africa to, getting out of Africa to come to America. It was an interesting adjustment, as many of you can appreciate. Any of you born here? Everybody here was born here, right? Oh, you weren't born here. Okay, you were born in Albania. Albania or Albania? Albania, right. And you were born here?
I was born here.
Okay, all right. Then how old were you when you came here? 4. Okay. So you are a little young. But when you come here in America, there are things that, there are classes that you have to take, okay? So that you are no, I wish. I wish. So we spoke English. Kenyans, they speak English. They were colonized by the British. So I already spoke English before I came. But they teach you cultural classes so that when you come here, you are able to assimilate in the culture, right? So my family and I, we lived in Kenya for 5 years. And every single year, we would apply to come to the US and we would be denied. And finally, like the 5th year, they told us if you come back to apply, we're just gonna send you back to Rwanda. So we were like, oh crap, okay. Yeah, so I know, because we just kept going every single year,
Y'all better stop.
Right.
You sitting y'all back.
And we were like, you know what, never mind, we'll just chill here. 2 days or 3 days after they told us that, we got a letter in the mail saying that we're coming to the US in like 2 weeks. And we were like, damn. Like, that was like some divine intervention. Like, up to now, we don't even know how that happened. But I remember hearing that news that we were gonna come and we were gonna start taking the classes, and oh my God, I had so many wild images going on in my mind, how my life was going to change when I come to the US. And so we would go in the classes and they'll give us pamphlets of like how life in America is, with pictures and things like that. And like all these pamphlets, there were no black people in there. It was like all white folks, mostly blonde and like blue eyes. And I literally thought that our family would be the first black family to come in the US. Because, I mean, it showed all white people, kids playing in the park, beautiful buildings, like there's no dirt in America. Everything is just like squeaky clean. And so this is where we were living, in Nairobi, Kenya. So imagine being told that you're gonna come from Nairobi, Kenya, to Dayton, Ohio, which is where my family went. Like, you can see the big contrast. And so we would look at pictures of Dayton, Ohio, and look at where we were, and we were thinking, oh my God, this is like heaven. And that's actually the University of Dayton where I went for college. So I felt like my life was going to change, and no more pain, no more suffering. I also used to think of the food. So in those pamphlets, they'll show us American food. And this is literally what they would show us, things like this. And then I would compare it to what we were eating. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to go to America and eat all that colorful food. But I always wondered why it looked like plastic. Like, it didn't look real to me. I mean, I was so young, right? And I'm thinking, I was like, their food is so colorful. I mean, it's like red and orange, and in my mind, I'm not thinking food coloring process, whatever. And I'm like, no wonder it's all white people there, because they eat like bright food, and so and our food is dark, like veggies. No wonder we are black. So in my mind, I'm just like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then I used to think about how I'll be going to school. Yeah, but you laugh at it. That's literally how I used to get to school. So we used to have like a 2-hour ride to go to school. And since I was so little, I could fit in like the smallest little spot in a car, and I was never late. So I would go and like just squeeze myself like between his legs and just stay in there and just hoping that I'll have like room to breathe and go like that for 2 hours to school. But then those pictures again will show us pictures of American kids going to school. And see, you're not gonna see any single black person in there. It's a white kid. So I imagine myself, white kids going in the bus, and there is me, the black kid. And they say how, you know, the bus comes to pick you up at your house. And I didn't have to walk like 20 minutes to go and get crushed, you know, in a matatu bus. So life was good. Life was good. And I thought about the school, like the bus will come and pick me up and take me to a school like that. Realize that that picture does have a black kid in it. The reason why it does is because that's actually the high school that I attended when I was here. So that was aftermath when I found out there are actually black folks here. But I wanted to put my actual high school that I went to and the high school that I went to in Kenya. So you can see the big contrast there. So life was all good. I was super excited about what America would have, you know, would have for me. I was also thinking about my future, right? So when I grew, like when I was growing up back home, my dad always used to tell me, you're a princess, one day you're gonna be a queen and you're gonna marry a king. And then fortunately, we were told I'm coming to America. So I wasn't gonna marry some African king back home. In my mind, I was like, okay, Brad Pitt, you know, Channing Tatum, you know, those are gonna be the kind of men, you know, that I'll be marrying. So like I said, this is how I imagined life will be in America. Until I got to America. So I remember we landed in New York, right? And getting out of the airport, actually getting out of the plane and walking into the airport, I was shocked. I was shocked to see all these black people walking around. You're like, what? I'm like, nobody got me ready for this shit. Like, seriously, I was shocked. But then I was like, oh, this makes sense. They're all refugees coming from Africa. So I literally thought that they were all refugees coming in because I wasn't prepared for the type of diversity that America has. And maybe things have changed now and they're portraying it to be the way it is, but back then, we just were not aware of what was going on. Also, people would ask me, like, what's your name? And I'll say, my name is Clementine. And then they'll start singing for me. Have you guys heard about the song, Oh My Darling Clementine? Oh, yeah. So they'll start singing for me, and I'm here thinking, like, everyone in America knows I'm coming, and they all practice this song just like a welcome song for me. So I'm like over the moon. Little did I know that's like an old song. And half of them didn't even believe my name was Clementine. They thought I was just confused and I was just saying stuff. But it was shocking. It was shocking going in the grocery stores and seeing all this food. Like, I had never seen so much food in my life. And some I recognized because it was like vegetables and like meat and things I know. But then some aisles I would go to, and it's all the plastic looking food that we saw there. And I'm just touching it like, oh my gosh, I'm here. Like, I can touch it. And I'm gonna eat it. And then I would eat it, and I'm like, what is this? It's really plastic with salt on it or something like that. But, you know, just like the food was, it was like something I had never, you know, imagined the taste of it. But it was all things that I later came to love as I became Americanized more and more. Well, not love, but tolerate. I think that's a better word. And then I just started going through life, went to 8th grade, was shocked because back home, the way you get your education and the way you treat your teachers is very different from here. So we would go to class, and we would all sit, and the teacher is, let's say, writing on the, you know, on the blackboard, and kids will like take gum and like throw at the teacher, or, I mean, so disrespectful. And the whole time I was like, what kind of country is this? Like, what did we get ourselves into? It was just, it was mind-boggling to me to see the teachers being treated like that. Eventually went to high school, and I got bullied. Talk about being bullied. So I walked in there the first day, and I started speaking. They were like, what is she saying? My accent was so thick. And so even in class, like, I knew what was going on, but I couldn't even raise my hand to say what was going on, because everybody would be like, what? And so I would always write my answers down and show the teacher like this. Okay, so I could get my participation points. But I got made fun of, you know, calling me monkey because I'm from Africa. Oh, what do you guys eat? Oh, you smell African. I'm like, what fragrance is that? Like, what is it? But I wanted to be popular so bad, and I wanted to fit in so bad that I had to like try different things for me to be accepted. So I remember this girl that was really popular. She was African American. She used to have this nice long straight hair. And I was like, that must be why she's so popular. So I went and asked her, I was like, how do you get your hair straight, like looking like this? And she told me, you just need to relax your hair. Like, put chemicals in your hair like every 2 weeks, and then eventually it's gonna be nice and long. So I started doing that. And after 6 weeks, my hair had fallen off. Like, I had over-processed it, right? And it had fallen off, so I had to go and buy a wig now. And so I went to the store and got a really nice looking wig. Like, I remember at that time Halle Berry was like the hot stuff. So I went and got a Halle Berry wig, and I was like, this is gonna show them. This is gonna be my ticket to being accepted, right? So I go and get the wig, and I remember, oh my God, it was in the winter, and I caught the bus. It was snowing really hard, right? But I was late. So I got on the bus, and as soon as the bus stopped, I got out running. And so I am running so fast with my wig on. I really looked good with that wig as long as it stayed on, right? So I am running, and as soon as I get right in front of the building, the doors, I'm like, hold on, I'm cold. Like, my scalp is cold. My head is cold. Like, what is going on, right? So the students are in the classrooms looking at me, right? And then I'm touching my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have the wig. So the wig had fell off, right, while I was running. And so I looked back, and a tree trunk had like I ran under a tree and like swooped my wig, and I kept running. So the wig was just like hanging in the trees, just chilling, right? And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh. If I go back to grab it, then I'm gonna be late for class, and the teacher will call my parents and tell them I was late. Or I can just go in looking like this and be the laughing stock. I would really be popular. That's what it's like, be careful what you wish for, because that was really gonna get me on the map, right? Or I can go in looking like that or go get the wig. I decided to go get my wig. And I put it on sideways. I didn't have a mirror. But I went and walked back in class, and I was the laughing stock for the whole entire year. I think even now, everybody tells that story. It's like one of those tales that you pass down. And that was the last time I was going to try to change myself to be someone I wasn't. That was like the last straw for me. And because of that, I was so embarrassed. I didn't even attend my high school graduation. I couldn't face everyone. I was so embarrassed. And so I decided, when I go to college, I am going to be authentic. I am going to be who I am. Those people that don't like me because I'm a refugee, or I speak differently, I have an accent, or I eat different food, that's on them. Like, I don't care. I am going to celebrate who I am. And that's exactly what I did in college. And surprisingly, I started being way more popular than I actually wanted, right? Because I went in being different, right? Like, I had this background that was interesting, that was different from a lot of the students, and I was being approached a lot, like, oh, tell me about your experience. Like, how did this happen? Like, how do you speak 5 languages? So being who I am and celebrating my identity really did help me add value in people's lives, instead of trying to be someone I wasn't. So I went through college, graduated, went ahead and got my master's degree, and everything was going well. Got married, had children, but during that time, I got pregnant with my second child. She was a girl, and at 7 months pregnant, she passed away. So she just stopped breathing. I was still pregnant with her. And that is that moment where my life just took a huge turn. I was so angry. I was in so much pain. And I don't know if you guys, are religious or spiritual, but I got so angry at God, and I would like literally cuss him out, and be like, ask him like, what do you want from me? From the age of 8, you know what I have gone through, and now you're going to take my child. What are you looking for? What do you want from me? So I went through a period where I was just in pain and feeling like there was no way out of my pain, of my situation. But then, as I went through the pain, I started thinking, you know what? I am not the only one that goes through this kind of pain, and I'm not the first, and I'm not the last. So I need to find a way to deal with this pain that I'm going through. How can, when something happens to me, I've always been a deep thinker, and I always ask myself, why is this happening, and what can I learn from it? So this is where I decided, her name was Clarette, and I decided to turn it all around and turn pain into purpose. And I created the Clarette Refugee Fund, and we sponsor high school students in Kenya to go through high schools, but we also have a leadership school, a Christian leadership school for these high school students that they go through, and we teach them leadership principles, which is why I was telling you I need an intern to help with this project. But so I have been able, through that pain of losing my daughter, through her name, I have been able to turn pain into purpose by sponsoring these students to get education that they would otherwise not get because they are refugees and they don't have the economic means and they just are not able to have those opportunities. So when I think about pain in general and just going through life, it's kind of like you have two choices. So you're going to go through pain. Are you going to get bitter with pain, or are you going to get better? Are you going to want to be a better person and learn from these experiences that you have gone through? And that's a question that we should all be asking ourselves. Like, through the painful experiences that we may go through, how are we going to grow from them, or what am I going to learn? You don't want to waste your pain. You want to find a way you can benefit from it. So I don't know how many, do you guys know, have you heard of John Maxwell? Yeah, okay. So I am a John Maxwell teacher, trainer, and coach and speaker, and one of the books that I really like is the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Have you guys heard of it? Yep. Okay, it's a pretty awesome book, and they talk about the law of pain a lot. And it just talks about how pain is unavoidable. We all go through pain, but good management of bad experiences leads us to great growth. So when bad experiences come to us, they can either leave us growing or really struggling to find who we are and kind of stay in that rut where we are thinking of ourselves as victims all the time, like, oh my God, why me? Why all these things are happening to me and things like that, when we can actually change the way we look at it and find growth and satisfaction through those things. So the first thing we need to know is, the law of pain, we need to learn it and know that there is going to be pain. And no one loves pain, no one likes pain. So what are we going to do about that? And that quote from John McDowell I really like: every problem introduces a person to himself. Looking at things that I have gone through, the different life experiences that I had, there are things that I learned about myself that I didn't know about me. For example, I did not know, like I grew up being told you are a type A person, you're not patient, you always want things this way and you want it to happen right away. But the more I learned about myself, just through the experiences I've gone through, I have learned that, you know what, I can actually be patient. I can actually be a pretty patient person, because I have realized that I don't have control over everything. And it's kind of like I take things as they come, and I try to be patient and see where things will go and learn from those experiences as time goes. I just never knew that I would be able to overcome losing a child and be able to create a nonprofit that is impacting so many lives and be okay with it and be able to talk about it. I literally did not know that I have that strength in me to do that, but because of things that have happened, which were very painful, I was able to do that, and it makes me appreciate what I have gone through, and I would not change my life or wish to have anyone else's life, because I am content with where mine is and everything that I've gone through. Way to go through the pain is to lead it, right? Just some things to think about. Like, how do you deal with pain when you have a painful experience? And it doesn't have to really be physical pain. It can even be emotional pain or failure. Let's say at work, maybe you wanted a promotion, but you didn't get it. And, like, how do you deal with that? Do you try to avoid pain at all costs? Or do you endure it because you have to? When you start feeling, those feelings of pain or displeasure, any negative feelings, are you thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of it right now. I gotta get out of it right now. I don't want it. Or do you kind of sit back and acknowledge that it's happening, but why is it happening? Do you embrace the pain and stay positive throughout of it? Because like I said, we are all going to go through it. How you go about it, though, is going to make or break you. And do you become bitter or better? You have a choice. So for me personally, how did I turn my pain into gain? I look at it in a positive way, right? I look at my pain in a positive way. So now, like, when it happens, I'm not thinking, how do I get out of it? But it's like, what am I getting out of this experience? What am I learning out of this experience? I mean, you're all pretty much entrepreneurs here, and starting a company, you go through a lot of pain. You could fail, you could lose money in the beginning. You just don't give up. You look at what you did wrong and you try to re-strategize and hope to do it right the next time. So you have to go through that pain. You have to go through that learning moment to get better, right? So that's just the same with any negative experience we go through, whether it's emotional or physical pain. That's how I see life. Like, yes, I acknowledge that I'm going through it, and I know it happens. Everyone experiences this, but what am I going to learn from it? The way I process it is I stop thinking about my situation and start thinking about others. So yes, I'm in pain, but I am not in the worst pain. There are people out there that are doing worse, that are in worse situations. How can I bless them? How can I add value in their lives? So when you start thinking about others, then you're not so concentrated in your own little world, in your own little box of what's going on. And so your pain kind of goes away when you're actually blessing others. And that's really what I do with my nonprofit. I bless others who I know are in much more pain than I am. And that really helps me embrace the bad experiences that I'm facing now or that I could face in the future. And I try to teach my kids the same way. There's going to be failure in your life. There's going to be bad experiences, but they're there for you to learn from and grow from. They're not there to bring you down. So that's all I have for you. If you have questions, let me know. This was short and intimate. So ask me any questions you have. I do have my books here. If you want to get one, it's $20, and they go towards supporting my work in Kenya. So yeah, that's what I have for you. Thank you.